Hey guys, this is DFD, aka Dark Frozen Depths, and this is just some gameplay in the background because I'm in the middle of burst time, and as you can see, we're actually getting kind of up there on raid boss level. Because until you're like a much stronger player, you're probably not even getting nowhere near this level without some help. Even then, I can take on bosses on my own like this at this point. But anyways, this is a bit of a video more about damage and whatnot because there's multiple ways to go about it, but this is to help you maximize it, going by what I'm saying on here. So, the whole thing about trying to maximize damage is dependent on a few factors mainly. Buffs, Eidolons, and debuffs. It all boils down to one of those three things. Now, when it comes to buffs, as you can see, I'm trying to toss on every single buff I have right now that will boost up various offense abilities and whatnot, and it'll end up giving me like some huge burst amounts too. Like, see, I did like near 7 million full burst just by checking the battle log. And that's another thing to know too. If you're in a raid, you can check the battle log to see how your damage is. The higher you can get the numbers, the better. And then reloading also gets you a lot of damage too in a fast amount of time if you want to maximize your debuffs. But anyways, there's a number of ways to go about buffs, and some of them are definitely better than others. Like, for instance, it seems like any like buffs like attack up or ability damage up or defense up, something like that, if they come from your soul, it seems like they will go across the entire team. Like, as in everybody in the raid at the moment. So you're not just buffing yourself, you're buffing your allies, and that increases damage output. That's where somebody being a bit of a buffer and a debuffer can actually help out in that. But also at the same time, there's like different ways to increase it through like various buffs that you can get, where I add a light attack buff thanks to Michael, so that's very good for my light team. And there's self buffs where they stack in different frames. That's another reason why you need to pay attention to what each buff does. Like, for instance, and debuffs can do this too. But for instance, I can get Hercules a buff for attack power, and then somebody comes along and uses Avalon's guidance, she gets a second attack buff on top of that. So that's something to know. Then on top of that too, ability damage only helps your ability, so it's a little bit niche, but it can still help. There's a critical attack buff where if it does land, you'll deal way more damage. And how much do I mean by way more? It's usually a huge jump by like maybe an extra 15% if you got a low value. That's the lowest I've probably seen it, to even a whopping double damage, so that's something to know. And then on top of that too is the fact that I've been using a move called Provisional Force. It's not the only one in the game that does this, but it gives a burst damage buff, so it maximizes the damage you can pretty much do off of that. So that's something to know. Especially during burst time, it's very, very good. If you can get other people to get defensive debuffs and whatnot, like I could always put in Sniper Shot, but since somebody's using Konohana Sakuya, she can come in and debuff attack and defense for the B frame, saving me a slot. So that's something else to know about raids. And then the biggest helper of all is usually your Eidolon buffs, because some Eidolons can come in and summon buffs. If I actually had to take the time and burn out some turns, I would easily be calling in the God Kaiser Dragon and Menghuo for another attack buff and another light attack buff. So I get another elemental increase and then another attack buff to go with it. Now, here's where others come in, and it looks like they finally fixed this thing with Yule Goat, so we don't have the confusion. But here's another thing too that comes into play along with like regular attack, which pretty much translates to assault, and then elemental attack. Now, those two happen to go in their own separate little multipliers, and the things that easily increase your regular attack would definitely be stuff like, say, attack buffs, like how that Avalon's Guidance went in, and then increasing your assault, which is a very, very good thing. That's why they say assault and pride need to go up in your grids. Then on top of that too, you can get it from certain Idolins where it says character attack. So that's something to know. And then when it comes to elemental attack, there's a select few buffs in the game that might do it. Like Tsukiyomi's self buff definitely does it. Then there's Idolins like, say, Barong, I couldn't think of her name for a second. Barong does it, Monogarmer, there's quite a few actually. And I'm just going off of light examples because that's the team I'm using right now. But there is a multitude of different ways to do it. Even relic weapons can do it too. If you happen to get a relic weapon, it'll do it as well. Like I have Herc's axe on right now, and this gives me a light attack increase of 30%, a huge margin. Because I'm currently using St. Nicholas, I went back and got her from the Idolin Orb Shop and beefed her up. So with her and Herc's axe, I have 75% light attack regardless of what happens, added to my total. And then and this is a little bit of an unknown thing, you do know if you have elemental advantage, you deal more damage and take less. How that happens is the fact that it's elemental based. So your elemental defense goes up apparently. Although I don't know full details if it's exactly elemental defense or not, but you definitely do take less damage somehow, some way on that. But I do know for sure they give you an elemental attack increase when you're actually going in with elemental advantage. So, for instance, I can say get 2 St. Nicholas's and also use my Herc axe. That's giving me a grand total of 120 additional elemental attack. Well, because I'm facing a dark enemy, I'm getting another, I think it's between 40 to 50%, somewhere around that mark. So, that's giving me at least 160. So that's something to know. So that's where you also got to come into factors with multipliers and whatnot too. Now, when it comes to stacking different multipliers, there is a chance there is like, say, in the case of where I got an advantage right now, I might actually get a little bit more off of character attack over elemental attack for a friend Idolin. Especially if you have Monarch Armor, that really solidifies it. If you have any of the 100% Idolins and you're going up against an enemy that's got a weakness towards you, then you definitely need to get character attack unless you see another 100% Idolin. So that's something to know. Because for instance, if I add up all my multipliers and all that, it could give me like it can put like 2.3 times, I'd say 2.2 between the different multipliers, character attack and elemental attack, and it can get me a lot more damage than say I put 2.6 towards one and have 1.8 towards the other. Because that's what it's all going down to. Like 120% translates to a 2.2. Because you have a 1.0 multiplier period. And then on top of that too, it looks like burst time has ended finally. But then on top of that too, something else that really could help out too is definitely the debuffs, which I haven't gotten into yet. Because they can give you a huge bulk of your damage. And defenses as well. Because elemental attack debuffs and then elemental defense debuffs and all that, they can manipulate the whoops, I probably shouldn't have used provisional force now. But they can manipulate things to the point where it's like, okay, say you're dishing out 50,000 damage per hit. Well, get all of the defense downs you can up to a 50% cap, because they combine together despite being elemental attack or say character attack and stuff like that. Say you get like a B frame defense debuff, an A frame defense debuff, and elemental resistance debuff. So you get all those down, that totals up to 50%. Well, guess what? Your 50,000 per hit is now should be doing somewhere around like, say, 90, maybe 100,000 per hit. So that's something to know. They can stack pretty well, and it massively beefs up the damage you can pull off. So that's another thing to keep in mind. And then it's the same case with, say, attack power debuffs. Like, I get an A frame, a B frame, and a C frame. I'm taking half damage. So that's something to know. Like, utilizing all of this can really, really maximize your damage, and it can do a number on things. So that's something to know. And then this even applies with, because it seems the union buffs in these union raids, like you're seeing on screen, they happen to go in their own frames, so that increases on top of what you already get. Like, for instance, I got an attack power one that's pretty much giving me 100% attack increase in its own frame, which is nuts. So that's another thing to know about. And then the biggest thing that really could boost that up even further is if, say, I get better accessories that can increase attack power, because they do that as well. Now, I don't know full details on how they do it, but I do know they do it. So that's something to know about. So the more stuff you can get, the better. But the biggest thing is always trying to beef up your skill levels and whatnot for your weapons, because that can carry you a lot further than what anything else would. And then combined with that, maybe increase your basic stats too, so it does a lot more that way. Like, for instance, I'm done with this for the moment. I did some rearranging, beefing up some accessories and whatnot, and now I have 53,000 as my rating. So that's getting pretty high, and it can still go even further. Because on the DMM side, they had 70,000 ratings on some of the top players, so that's something to know. But, increasing your base stats and whatnot can really help out with that. That's why you need the final break weapons, because they can go way further in both base stats and skill levels. That's why you need to get your add-ons as high as possible, get some accessories that really complement your stuff. If you find a triple attack accessory, you're pretty much set for damage output. So that's a lot of stuff that you really need to go over. Like, if you do know about this, and more power to you. But if you don't, this kind of should clear up some things about it. Because it's a hard concept to grasp at first, but when you get the hang of it, you can start doing it a lot more. So that's something to know about. And then finally, one thing I absolutely must say helps is the fact that you absolutely should get the heroic weapons and then the best accessories you can, because it will help you out a lot further down the line. Later on, we'll get the true catastrophe raids, and it will end up giving you even more accessory slots. So yeah, that's a thing. And it'll also give you accessory set bonuses, because if you really want to get for more attack power, then hey, guess what? You can get a set effect that'll increase it by a nice little chunk. I think it's another 10% or so. But I'd rather prefer the TRs where you get your combo rate, because the last thing I need to mention is that there's other ways to also increase it in their own frames. Like, rampaging seems to be in its own frame. When we get vigor, it's in its own frame. There's like a nice little multitude of effects, if you want to be honest. So you have to just pay attention to what you get, what you do, and so on. Like, for instance, if you want even more stats, try to plus 99 all your add-ons and weapons, and eventually Kamihime, because they can do it too. And say you might get more accessories and whatnot, try to get the ones with the most powerful effects and stats. So if I can say get nothing but TRs with all attack increase, that would be insane for a character. And then easily try to level up your add-ons and whatnot, because you're going to want that. So that's another thing to really pay attention to. And then, like I said, eventually we're going to get stuff like Vigor, and then there's going to be a special frame increase, which the first time you see that should be SSR Diablos when she appears, because she'll give 100% in a special frame. So say you got like a decent amount of Vigor, a decent amount of Assault, a decent amount of Elemental Attack, And then you got special frame on top of that. That's 4 different multipliers on top of each other. So that's something to know. And then, last but not least, which is a very, 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 very big thing, you absolutely must try to get some seriously powerful accessories that are like, you can get the ancient ones now, but there will be double ones later down the line. They do make a huge difference when it comes to your stats, because 1, they have bigger base stats, and 2, their effects are stronger than normal. So grind out those accessory quests and whatnot. It will really help you out. But anyways, that's all I got for this. There's going to be a video of me actually taking on a guild order. And it's very easy since it happens to be the Dohan one. I completely smashed that one. But that's definitely going to be the next video. And I'm kind of losing my train of thought because I'm doing 2 things at once. But yeah, that's why doing these union events can help out a lot, because it kind of beefs you up towards all the aspects I mentioned. So that's something to know about. But yeah, next video is definitely going to end up being the that guild order fight. I just gotta like do some editing work and whatnot. Especially since the thing wanted to cut off in the middle, because it glitched out on me, so I had to reload the whole page and everything. But nothing really happened since it wanted to do it in between waves, thankfully. So I started the next wave right where it picked off, which is nothing at all. But that's all for this video, guys. And there's definitely going to be more of this coming soon, because this is easily my most watched, the most watched game I have on this. So expect more of this, absolutely. But anyways, that's all for this video, guys. I'm going to get back to trying to level up all these things and try and beat them up, because I definitely need to. And I may or may not do more on this event. It depends. But you've seen enough as what I said, because with all those factors coming in, I was doing like 1 million at times, 1 million for normal attacks, and then I was doing like 7. I seen 8 million once for burst. So yeah. But anyways, that's all for now, guys. Take care.